I decided that I wanted to jump on today because I know a lot of people are probably at home thinking about what they want to do for the day, waiting till this game. My man says some game is coming on at 7 o'clock. And so I just wanted to hop on and just tell you a little bit of a story about what I'm doing. So those of you, hey, clever crayon, Eddie on the east side, hey y'all. So a lot of people are like, well, are you teaching marketing or are you a real estate agent? I am a real estate agent, but I also am keenly aware of how important online marketing or internet marketing is in order to grow a business online. So I gave the Cliff Notes version of my story last Wednesday to a marketing community that I am a part of. Yeah, I knew that was you, Z. Hey, girl. And when I gave my real story from the heart of the winding road that has led me to what I'm doing right now. By the way, if you jump off early, click the link in my bio. It's Wednesday webinar or Webinar Wednesday. I'm being featured on this webinar again this Wednesday, and I'm going to show a little bit more about what I do in terms of social media and getting people to get their eyeballs on what I'm doing. So the Cliff Notes version is I basically have had my real estate license since 2004. And the reason, believe it or not, that I got my real estate license is I was laid off from the unemployment office. True story. So I was working for the state of Texas. I was working in their office. I was the person that you would call up and ask a question about your unemployment claim. And then I got promoted. I was the person who was making decisions about the unemployment claims, like who would get unemployment. And I got laid off from the unemployment office. 150 of us worked at this office in downtown Houston. They called us all into a meeting and they said, y'all are getting laid off. And they gave us like 6 months notice, I believe. At the time that I got notice that I was getting laid off, I was also pregnant with my first child. So I didn't tell all of this in the webinar on Wednesday because we were going really, really fast. But I wanted people to know the winding road that I've taken to the spot that I'm in now. So back to what I was saying. 2003, I was pregnant with my first child. I was working for the unemployment office. The unemployment office said, we're closing this place down. And if you want to keep working for the state of Texas, you can move to the valley down south and we'll pay you $250 to move. That made no sense to me. First of all, I was married, and at the time, my husband had a regular job here in Houston. I was not getting paid enough to move to the valley without my husband because I was getting laid off. So, working for the unemployment office, we got our unemployment papers. I'm pregnant with my first child. Like, this is like panic mode in a way. They gave us enough notice, however, that I was able to have my baby, go on maternity leave, come back, and then I worked like probably 2 more months and the office was officially closed. So they did give us a lot of notice. And once I got laid off from the unemployment office, I sat down with my husband and I was like, well, what the heck am I going to do now? And I just sat there, talked about it, thought about it, and I said, why don't I get my real estate license? So he was like, sure, that sounds good. Go ahead and get your real estate license. So I go get my real estate license. As soon as I get my license, I do all the dumb stuff that they tell you as a real estate agent. And I don't mean to tone my nose up at it, but this is what people tell you when you get your real estate license. They say, tell everyone that you know that you've got your real estate license. Talk to your sphere of influence. So I was with Keller Williams. I wanted to point that out. I signed on. That was my first brokerage, Keller Williams. I signed on with them and I buy all kinds of stuff. I buy magnets and just all kinds of swag to let everybody know that's in my friends and family circle that I'm a real estate agent. Crickets. Like crickets. And that always stuck with me because I'm like, this sphere of influence BS that they're feeding us does not get you business. And so I floundered in real estate for a while. And then I got hired at a company called Zip Realty. And just to put the picture into perspective, this is like 2004, 2005. There was no social media. It literally did not exist in a way. I mean, maybe there's MySpace and all that, but social media the way it is today didn't even exist. So if you think back before social media, I'm out here trying to tell people, please hire me. I want to be your real estate agent. I spent a whole year floundering with Keller Williams. I did absolutely zero business. Then the following year, I got with Zip Realty. And Zip Realty was a technology company that came from California. And they decided the technology that they wanted to work on or improve on was real estate. Because I think someone in the higher ups realized that most real estate agents flounder. They don't do very much business, maybe 1 to 2 deals a year. And so Zip Realty had the bright idea, let's hire real estate agents as W-2 employees. What that meant is you would get insurance, you get 401k, you would get an actual check where anything you close, the taxes were already taken out. That was like unheard of back then. So Zip Realty said, we're going to flip real estate on its head and we're going to do something different. And what they did is they invested $1 million a month into making sure if somebody typed in real estate, that their particular company would come up on the first page of Google. So they're spending that money into that technology and making real estate agents W-2 employees gave us leads. That was the very first time that I realized how important it is to get leads. Because once I started getting leads, I started closing deals. So that was the only gap in between what made me have business and what made me not have any business. I didn't know how to generate leads for my business from home. And I knew the sphere of influence thing was BS. That was not going to get me business. So I'm with Zip Realty. I'm over the moon. Oh, just super happy that I'm with this company. They're giving me leads. I'm getting people in cars. I'm closing deals. And I'm like, this is amazing. But then there's a catch. There is always a catch, right? Once I got my checks, they were really, really small. And the reason they were really, really small is because they took out for insurance. They took out, all the stuff that a W-2 employee gets taken out. And because I was with their brokerage, they had a split. So at the end of the day, I was really only bringing home 28% of what I closed. And then my regular real estate friends who weren't with the technology company like that started making fun of me. They were like, girl, if you were at a traditional real estate company, that deal that you just closed would get you $7,500. And all you got was $2,200 from this deal that you closed. You're stupid. You're not making the money that you could make at a traditional brokerage. But then I sat there and I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't be making the money at a traditional brokerage, but I wouldn't even be getting any deals. So I kind of sat with that for a few months and I kept saying, you know what, this is correct. Like if I was at a traditional brokerage, this lead would have gotten me $10,000 or whatever. So anyway, I didn't like how small my checks were. I could have a check one month and it would be $800. And that's the nature of working on commission only. I understood that, but I didn't like it. So fast forward, 6 months goes in. I'm still like busy as I don't know what. And someone at Zip Realty quit their job. So I went home to my husband and I said, I know you hate how my checks are just fluctuating. We have a mortgage. We have 2 car notes. Do you think it would be better for me to abandon real estate and just go work in an office? And we both sat and talked about it. And he was like, yeah, at least you would have a regular check and it would be coming in every 2 weeks. It wouldn't have to, like, we wouldn't have to be playing around with what's your check going to be this month. So the guy who resigned at Zip Realty, he was a transaction coordinator. I went, I interviewed to be a transaction coordinator, and they transitioned me from the outside sales rep position to being a transaction coordinator. And then, believe it or not, about a year after I had that position, the whole real estate market crashed. And I got laid off again. It's hard for me to tell people these stories without the full, like, what the heck am I doing right now? So I get laid off again from a real estate company. And I was like, what in the heck is going on with my life? So, yes, it was my fault that I took the 9 to 5, but I did not know taking that 9 to 5 in the office as a transaction coordinator was going to get me laid off again. So I went back to the drawing board and I just went and got a regular job. I said, real estate is just, it's just not for me. So when I went and got this regular job, my kids were toddlers. And a year after I went and got a regular job, by the way, that regular job was working as a church secretary, believe it or not. I went and worked as a church secretary because that was a job I could find. It was close to my anyway, my kids were staying at the daycare, and that's how I got the job to work at as a church secretary. So I'm working as a church secretary. Zip Realty calls me back, and they were like, "You were amazing when you worked here, but we just laid everyone off." And decided that was best for us at the time. Would you like to come back and be our transaction coordinator again? And I told them no. And the reason why I told them no wasn't just because they laid me off, but the church secretary job gave me free daycare for my kids. So I was able to get free daycare, and that job was only like maybe 4.5 minutes from where I lived. So I had free daycare. I worked 4.5 minutes from my house. I was like, no, thank you, Zip Realty. I don't want to come back. And so I was working as a church secretary. Everything was all good. And then again, what happened at this particular point in time was I wasn't making enough money. So I got a second job. My second job, so to speak, was working as an event planner with a lady that I used to go to school with. I was trying to put together enough money into my household so that I wasn't seem like, well, the only benefit of my job was having free daycare, which it was a big thing. Anywho, so I got this second job, and I would work with this event planner, and that second job still wasn't enough money, but I loved it. Like, I really, really enjoyed doing it. Well, the pastor of the church said my focus was being taken away. And one day there was something that I was supposed to pick up, and I didn't answer my phone, and it was because I was working with the other lady, but it was my day off. Anyway, he got ticked off and he said, I think you need to go do that full time. So again, I'm like, okay, well, now I have full time access to go work for this event planner, but she did not make enough to be able to pay me a real salary. So I did that for a while, and my husband was like, girl, you just don't seem to be able to keep jobs, whatever the case may be. I just say everything is divine timing. I was supposed to do that. So eventually the event planner's business, I would say this, she wasn't making enough money, and I had to go get a real job. That was a hobby. It was really, really fun. I loved it. And out of the blue, I just put my resume online, and a company called KB Home found my resume online, and I got hired and worked at KB Home. And what I was doing at KB Home was I was supporting the salespeople who worked at KB Home. And I worked at KB Home almost 4 years. Hated that job. I was freaking miserable. Hated it. I was crying. I was mean to my kids. I was just a very, very unhappy person. And toward the end of my work there, they called me into HR and they were like, "We see that you're very unhappy. Why don't you go and work as a salesperson with, out in the field and sell new homes?" And I turned them down. I said no because I knew to work in new home sales, I was going to have somebody watch my kids on the weekends. And at the time, my husband worked on the weekends as well. So I couldn't be working on Saturday and my husband be working on Saturday and we just have no daycare. And I said no. I don't want to be working, and my battery is getting low, so it paused. So I said, no, I don't want to be working on the weekends. No, thank you, KB. I'm out of here. And I floundered for quite a few months. Like I just literally quit because I was like, I can't stand it here anymore. You know, I'll figure something out. So I didn't have any income. I'm just out here living my best life, so to speak, but I'm really broke. And someone finds my resume online from a company called Pulte Homes. And Pulte Homes hired me to be a transaction coordinator because I had some experience doing that with Zip Realty. And I go to Pulte. Again, my heart of hearts, I hate working a 9 to 5. But I got into Pulte Home. They paid me a little bit more money than I was making before. I was able to start paying my bills back and getting stuff back on track. And my marriage started to fall apart somewhere around in that time. But I was making an income. I had a 9 to 5. I was paying my bills, whatever. I think around year 2, I really started hating what I was doing at Pulte Homes. And I didn't mention between the waves of all this stuff that I was activating and inactivating my real estate license. So I would go for a couple of months in between getting these 9 to 5 jobs and activate my real estate license so that I was able to maybe sell a deal here or there, but I wasn't doing it full time. So anyway, back to Pulte Homes. I'm working at Pulte Homes. I hate the job so freaking much. Again, I really hate 9 to 5s. And someone from another company recruited me. They said, "We know your work ethic. You are badass." That's what they told me, coming from Pulte. And there were a lot of people who were quitting Pulte. So they were like bringing over people. You know what I mean? Like they were kind of like, don't let anybody know that you're coming for an interview, this kind of thing. So I get recruited over to this other company from Pulte. And so I started working there. Hated it. This, in my entire working career, this is the shortest job I ever had. I worked there for 8 months and I quit. I said, screw this. I hated it. So after I quit that job, I decided to go and apply to work for a builder. So at this point, we're at 2018. I decide, okay, I'm going to go work for a builder because I know salespeople who work for builders make a hell of a lot of money. My marriage is already over. I don't really have to deal with any of that. I just was, having to go for what I know. I'm like, I need to go make some real, real money. So someone who knew me from Pulte hired me to go and be a sales rep for a company called Legend Homes. I went and worked for Legend Homes, started selling new homes. When you work for builders, at least in the state of Texas, you're not required to have an active real estate license. So I went to go sell homes and my license was inactive. It was on the shelf. I went, made some pretty decent money. I had a lot of twists and turns that happened inside of when I was working for Legend Homes. And then the pandemic hits. So the top of 2020, I was being celebrated as salesperson of the month. And then the pandemic hits, all my sales cancel. I'm like, what the heck am I supposed to do now? I was working commission only at Legend Homes. So if I didn't bring in anything, that would mean I would have a zero check. I had a zero check for months. I was like, I can't indefinitely have no money. So I went and applied for unemployment because I remembered when I was working for the unemployment office, they said if your income dips, then you can apply for unemployment even though you're not unemployed. So I went and applied and I said, I still have a job, but I have not made any money for months because the pandemic took away all my sales. Long story short, they denied my unemployment claim. And I was like, well, what the heck am I supposed to do now? I'm sitting around driving to this place every day. My bank account is just dwindling. I have $0 in my bank account, and I'm supposed to keep driving this to this place. It was 143 miles was the last location they assigned me to. Long story short, I ended up quitting. I was like, I can't just indefinitely keep driving up here and I have no income, zero commissions coming in because everything is gone. So then I went and applied and I worked for a temporary agency. I went and worked at this company as a temp, taking temperatures of people when they walked into a school. True story. All of this is true. So I started taking temperatures just so I could bring in some income. While I was taking temperatures, somebody found me online because I was promoting myself to help run Facebook ads. And this person was a real estate agent. And they were like, I want you to help me with my social media. I want you to help me run ads. And in the meantime, they were like, well, if your license is inactive, why don't you go back to real estate? And I was like, no, I don't want to go back to real estate because I already know what that hustle is. You got to spend every weekend driving around, putting people in cars, getting applications in. I don't want to do that life anymore. And so even though I said that with my mouth, I was like, I don't want to do that life anymore. I knew I could make a heck of a lot more money than working at a temp agency taking people's temperatures. So then I said, all right, I'm going to reactivate my license. I reactivated my license, and this particular niche called apartment locating fell in my lap. In the meantime, I realized how many people do not advertise themselves correctly on social media. I've been studying social media since 2014, and I said, well, if I ever activate my license again, I'm going to take social media by storm. And that's exactly what I did. So this was June of 2021. I was back to being an active real estate agent, but now I'm promoting something called apartment locating. I literally have been studying online marketing since 2014, and I used it to do a bunch of junky, weird experiments in between all of this other stuff that I told y'all about. I was just really studying internet marketing, and I was like, how do you make money from the internet? And I learned a lot of tips and tricks. So by the time I decided to become an apartment locator, my whole business exploded just using what I know about social media and internet marketing. So, fast forward to today, I just kept my head down and I said, I'm going to keep doing what I know works for social media marketing. And I joined a marketing company that basically teaches people how to make money online with your passions. And one of my passions is talking about internet marketing. And internet marketing, I started to dwindle it down. When I first came and I started, advertising to people that I help with marketing, I was like, oh, I just help with anybody. And a coach of mine said, why don't you stop saying you help anybody? Just be more specific. Say you want to help real estate agents. He said, that's the business world you came from. You know that back and forth. Why don't you just start telling them what you're doing and trying to help them? As soon as I started talking about real estate marketing, again, my business on that side, the marketing side, really started to take off. And so the marketing community that I've been posting like my interview about is because they were like really curious. They were like, what is she doing? How is she getting these sales, etc., etc. And I just shared my story. It was not as long as detailed as this because there's a lot of in between. And I wanted to give people the meat and potatoes of what has brought me to what I'm doing now. I've always been a real estate agent in my heart of hearts, but I didn't make a lot of money and I kept inactivating my license and doing a whole bunch of stuff. And so I saw the opportunity to help other real estate agents with their online marketing, which has led me to being interviewed, which has led me to this Wednesday. So this Wednesday, they're bringing me back to do another presentation to show my philosophy on TikTok. Because the first video that I put up in June of 2021, announcing that I was an apartment locator, shot my business through the roof. I was talking to 55 people a week. And the reason why that happened is because I know how to do internet marketing. So I know that was a long story. I know some of y'all will be like, girl, that was a lot. But it's really true. Like, it's all of this stuff has happened so that I could get to this point. And I made a few $1,000s releasing my own course because I was showing other real estate agents how to be an apartment locator instead of just a generic, regular, everyday real estate agent. And people are starting to take notice. My point is not for just people to take notice. I really, truly am passionate about helping other people explode their business. I want other folks to be like, holy crap, Bianca, I just talked to 55 people this week because I used the processes that you show. And that's it. I mean, that's my passion. They're bringing me back on Wednesday to train on TikTok. If you want to register, the link is in my bio. It says Wednesday webinar or webinar Wednesday. You can go to biancaroberts.com/Wednesday and you can register for the training. You don't necessarily have to be a real estate agent, but this is near and dear and true to my heart. And I hope to see y'all there. I did not expect this live to be that long, but child, I had a story to tell. All right, see y'all. I'm going to press end if I can figure out how to do it because I haven't done it in so long.